Hey guys, so I want to take a look at the latest polls that have been released. These are the first polls that have ever been released for the 2024 presidential election. There have not been too many, but I do want to take a look at the few polls that we have seen. Actually, there's a pretty good handful of polls that we've seen. However, I think some of them show some pretty shocking results. As you can see, Biden plus 22% against Ted Cruz, 25% against Nikki Haley. I also want to compare these numbers to the numbers that we saw for the 2020 presidential election, where Joe Biden led by 7.2% in the polls. And I also want to take a look at the polling for both the Republican and a Democratic nominations for president in 2024. So before we get started, make sure to join my Discord server if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. We have a pretty cool mock government on there, so make sure to join that if you have not. On top of that, I have channel memberships for just 99 cents per month, so make sure you check those out if you're interested in gaining some extra perks on this channel. So taking a look at the latest polls for 2024, I'm just going to start off here from the very top. You can see these are three polls conducted with Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee and these other two potential Republicans. So if you want to get more familiar with the 2024 field, essentially as of right now for the Republican Party, you have Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump as the two clear frontrunners. However, if Donald Trump does run, he is 100% going to be the nominee. There's really no doubt about that. However, his chances of running in 2024 are not exactly the highest. Donald Trump is getting up there in age, and that may very well prevent him from running again in 2024. However, if he does run, he definitely has a very, very good chance at winning that nomination. For Ron DeSantis, he's much younger. He's someone that's been able to captivate both the moderate wing of the Republican Party as well as the more Donald Trump-ish wing. So Ron DeSantis has definitely been doing very, very well in that aspect and uniting the party. I think he can definitely do very, very well with the absence of Donald Trump in 2024. In third place, we have Nikki Haley, who is now in third place once again. She had fallen under many of these other candidates for a while. She is followed by Ted Cruz, Mike Pence, and Kristi Noem, all at 6%. So taking a look at these numbers here, as you can see, Donald Trump just lost the lead a couple of days ago. Before this, Ron DeSantis was pretty much around 5-6 cents below Donald Trump. However, as of right now, Ron DeSantis has retaken the lead in the past 24 hours, as you can see here, and Ron DeSantis is now the front runner for the Republican nomination once again. For these other ones, they've stayed pretty stagnant, but the race, of course, is very, very early. But I can promise you that if Donald Trump does not run, many of these candidates are. But if Donald Trump does run, many of them are not like Nikki Haley, who has not been the strongest Trump supporter, but she has pledged that if Donald Trump runs in 2024, Nikki Haley will not be a part of that primary. As for the Democratic Party here, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, really the only two candidates that have a chance at this point. Buttigieg and Cortez are both in third place, followed by Warren, Sanders, and Clinton, who are just too old as of right now to make a successful run for president. So really, there's four people in the field, and really two of them are dominating. The incumbent president, Joe Biden, of course, is in the same scenario as Donald Trump. If he runs, he will win, but it's really a matter of fact, of whether or not the oldest president in American history will run for re-election. So Joe Biden, as you can see, has been doing pretty well in his chances. Kamala Harris has dropped quite a bit since just the beginning of the month of June. So as you can see here, Joe Biden, the front runner for 2024 for the Democrats, while for the Republicans, it's pretty much a tie at this point between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. So taking a look at the first polls for 2024, as you can see, Kamala Harris against Mike Pence, Harris +9, Harris +7 against Donald Trump. So Donald Trump does do better than Mike Pence. However, Donald Trump does defeat Kamala Harris in this other poll by 4%. These are nationwide polls conducted this year. These are polls from 2020, so I would ignore those. However, for the next poll here, this is specifically in New Hampshire. Joe Biden leads by 8%, and this national YouGov poll, Joe Biden leads by 10%. So some pretty healthy margins for Joe Biden. If you look at the 2020 election, Joe Biden led on average by 7.2% at the very end. He ended up winning the election with 51% of the votes, I believe 51.2%, and he won by 4.5% against Donald Trump, which was a pretty respectable margin. As for the actual primary here, if we actually go to the beginning of the Trump versus Biden era in 2020, because this, of course, was after the Democratic primary when Joe Biden became the presumptive nominee. So as you can see here, Joe Biden led at his peak. He led by 10.2% against Donald Trump. He would never reach that again. That was the margin that he saw in late June at the height of the BLM protests. However, after that, his margins fell in the months of August and September, but in October they came up again, and he finished off with a strong 7.2% lead in the polls. So you can see Joe Biden already is doing better than he did in 2020, +8 and +10. But of course, this is a result of him being the incumbent president, and that definitely has boosted him quite a bit. I think that being the incumbent did definitely helped Donald Trump in 2020, especially with those independents, but still he came up short. But in 2024, Joe Biden will now get that boost from those independent voters if he does run. Another poll here between Trump and Harris shows that Trump does lead by 4% at 49%, so Kamala Harris has consistently been less popular than Joe Biden. However, if you match up Joe Biden with four of the most prominent Republicans here, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump, you see that Biden leads by 25, 16, 22, and 17 points. These are national polls conducted by Ipsos, so definitely these are some pretty worrying numbers for the Republican Party, especially Nikki Haley, who cannot even get 1 out of 5 voters to support her in this poll here. Ron DeSantis is better at 25, Trump at 28, while Ted Cruz sits at 24% support. This other YouGov poll between Biden and Trump, Biden +12. You have some polls between Harris and DeSantis, Harris +12, Biden versus DeSantis, Biden +17. So these two, the two Democratic frontrunners against the Republican frontrunner Ron DeSantis, both of the Democrats defeat Ron DeSantis by double digits. This is because Ron DeSantis is not as well known as these other two, of course, and I think that in the future, if he does become a more prominent nominee and his nomination does become more and more eminent, I think that definitely he will increase in his numbers in the polls. But right now, some pretty strong numbers for both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. But of course, very early in the 2024 election cycle, there is a huge amount of undecided voters, especially with independents. As for this poll from Missouri, this is just Missouri specifically, Trump +15. Same margin that you saw here in the 2020 general election, so definitely not much has changed there. Biden versus Trump, another one, Biden +4. This one was for the 2020 election. This one, all of these other ones were for 2020 as well. So those were essentially all the polls that have been released so far for the 2024 election cycle. If you want to take a look at them in more of a organized chart, as you can see here, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, all the polls that have been released, Joe Biden leads by 10, 12, 17, and 4% with nationwide polling. As for Joe Biden versus Ron DeSantis, Joe Biden leads by even larger margins of 17 to 16%. So this does show that Donald Trump currently is a stronger candidate than Ron DeSantis. Joe Biden versus Haley +25, Ted Cruz +22. While if you put up Kamala Harris against Donald Trump, Trump leads in 2 of these 3 polls. Kamala Harris only leads in 1. And for Kamala Harris versus Mike Pence, Kamala Harris leads by 9% against Ron DeSantis. She leads by an even larger 12%. So definitely some pretty surprising numbers. We see that Kamala Harris is unable to defeat Donald Trump. However, against both Mike Pence and Ron DeSantis, Kamala Harris is able to pull out a win, while Joe Biden is sweeping the Republican Party as of this point in time. So definitely some very good numbers for Joe Biden, but for the Democratic Party as a whole, Kamala Harris, who right now has a 1 in 3 chance of winning the 2024 Democratic nomination, her numbers against Donald Trump, one of the frontrunners for 2024 for the GOP, are definitely not promising. I think that Kamala Harris is going to have to work to increase those numbers, and these numbers against Mike Pence, Ron DeSantis, these two candidates really, they have not been in the presidential, they have not run for president before, and I think that, if they were to actually become the nominee, Kamala Harris no way is going to lead by 12 and 9% over either Ron DeSantis or Mike Pence. So definitely, I think these are good numbers for Joe Biden, especially against Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, these are good numbers for him as well. Ted Cruz won't win the nomination, or nor do I think Nikki Haley will at this point. But for Kamala Harris, she definitely should be worried about some of these numbers that she's seeing. And also do want to take a look at the primary numbers for both the Democrats and the Republicans. As you can see here, the top Republicans currently are Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. And if you take a look at the polling, this really does show, it's reflected by the polling that Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump are the two frontrunners. However, what is not reflected is that Mike Pence is another prominent nominee here, a potential nominee for 2024, the vice president, of course, to Donald Trump. who has a 6% chance of actually winning the nomination right now, tied with both Kristi Noem and Ted Cruz. However, I think that he can definitely do much better than people expect. If you take a look at the latest poll that's been released, this is without Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis plus 7%, Pence in second place. Nikki Haley and Ted Cruz are down there at 6%, Mitt Romney at 4%, Marco Rubio only at 3%, Trump Jr. at 17%. This other poll here, DeSantis plus 5 again, Trump in second place, Trump Jr. in third place. Another one here, this one with Donald Trump plus 46%. The entire field is basically scattered without Donald Trump. And then for just the state of New Hampshire, this is a pretty important primary. This is the first primary, actually, of both the Democratic and Republican nominations. Trump plus 32% in the state of New Hampshire. Some other polls, DeSantis plus 8 without Donald Trump, but Pence, of course, is again in second place. This one poll here, Pence actually leads by 1% over DeSantis, with the exception of Donald Trump not being on this poll. Ivanka Trump polling at 3%, Candace Owens 5%, Ted Cruz 12%, and Trump Jr. again in third place at 13%. With Trump in it, of course, 57-48, huge margins for Donald Trump. So that's why I said if Trump runs, he's going to win that nomination. Of course, his undecideds in all of these polls, which make up a huge amount of the party. Again, DeSantis plus 20 in this poll. Pence actually only in fourth place in the Trafalgar poll conducted earlier this year. And then Ron DeSantis plus 4% again over Mike Pence. So getting pretty repetitive here. As you can see, the basic trend is if Donald Trump is running in the poll, basically Trump leads by astounding margins. If Trump is not in that poll, then essentially what you'll see is Ron DeSantis leading with Mike Pence following him, sometimes closer, sometimes farther. Ted Cruz typically in third or fourth place along with Donald Trump Jr. So we do have some pretty interesting polls here from the state of Iowa. Iowa's important because it is, of course, the first primary. Well, not the first primary, it's the first caucus. It could become a primary in the future, but it is the first race, and it is a very important race. Trump did lose this to Cruz in 2016, during the last Republican primary. But for 2024, I don't think Trump will have any trouble winning in the state of Iowa. If you look at the numbers here, 2012, Obama won Iowa by 5.8%, and in 2016, Trump flips it and wins it by 9.4%. He held a still pretty strong margin of 8.1%. If you look at the Senate elections here in the state of Iowa, especially in 2020, Teresa Greenfield almost beat Joni Ernst by, I believe she only lost by 5%. So definitely in 2020, as you can see, Joni Ernst only won by 6.5%. So Donald Trump still outperformed the senator from the state of Iowa running in her home state. So Donald Trump has a pretty strong presence in the state, which I think will definitely benefit him in 2024. But if you go back further, you'll see that at the beginning of this primary season, right after the 2020 election, Mike Pence was the frontrunner with the exception of Donald Trump. As you can see here, Pence plus 23 in this poll released in February. If you go back even further, if you get closer and closer to the month of November, you'll see some of these polls released right after the 2020 election, right after Trump lost. This was before the insurrection at the Capitol, where, of course, Mike Pence certified the Electoral College victory of Joe Biden in early January. But as you can see, these polls here released in November, Pence plus 30 with the exception of Donald Trump. So definitely what you'll see here is that Mike Pence was one of the top contenders, but after CPAC, after all the attention that Ron DeSantis has gotten, he definitely became one of the stronger candidates for the 2024 election. And before this, you'll see this is all for the 2020 presidential election. So definitely Mike Pence has dropped in his chances, and if you want to take a look at this a little bit better, what you'll see here is all the polls with Donald Trump. These are the polls with Donald Trump, as you can see up there. This is not exactly the best graph, but if you do take a look at this graph, you'll see Donald Trump doing very, very well. The other candidate category has definitely been very strong. As you can see, huge numbers, almost a third in many, many cases of the candidates are undecided or want somebody else that is not polled in these, from these major candidates here. Donald Trump leads in every single poll that he is in, leads by over 50% in almost all of them, almost 70-80% in some instances. However, with the polls without Donald Trump, you see Pence crashing down there, that red line there. And then as for Ron DeSantis, his line has been going up quite a bit, and he is now in first place. Definitely none of these numbers are as high as Joe Biden's in 2020 without Donald Trump. However, definitely they are pretty surprising to take a look at. Ron DeSantis has recently become the front runner for this race, but there are many, many polls in which Mike Pence does lead in, and Donald Trump Jr. does actually lead in one of these polls, with another one being a majority of voters wanting somebody else that was not polled. So definitely, I think it's very, very interesting. Take a look at this. A lot of these others, is composed of Donald Trump. Before the inauguration of Joe Biden, as you can see, it was pretty much won by Mike Pence. Before the 2020 general election, again, even more so, won by Mike Pence in these polls. So, as you can see here, Ron DeSantis has been catching up, and I think that the 2024 GOP primary will be pretty interesting, especially if Donald Trump does not run in it. However, for the Democratic Party, some pretty interesting polls as well. Well, not too interesting, actually, to be honest. Basically, Kamala Harris leads in all of them. Michelle Obama is in second place in almost all of these polls. You'll see many of these prominent Democrats, AOC 7%, Buttigieg 6%, but really, without Joe Biden in them, Kamala Harris blows the field away. This is before the 2020 general election. This was for 2024. And as you can see here, Andrew Cuomo at 20%. This was before his whole scandal. And, right now he's not going to get that kind of support. But you did see in the past, before the inauguration, Michelle Obama leading in some of these polls. It's not going to happen. She's not going to run for president. It's just not going to happen. So really right now, the only frontrunner you have is Kamala Harris if Joe Biden is not included. But if you do take a look at this poll here with Joe Biden, between the Democrats, Joe Biden currently has 57% support from the Democratic Party for another 4 years. And this will definitely, of course, increase. The Democratic Party, if Joe Biden does run, is not going to oust their sitting incumbent president unless he really does something horrible. That's really not going to happen, and he's not going to have any sort of strong challenger, because really the only person that's going to challenge Joe Biden that has a chance right now is Kamala Harris, who is his vice president, so that's not going to happen. The Iowa caucuses, Joe Biden 63. He actually only got fourth place in the caucuses in 2020. New Hampshire 64%. He only got fifth place in the New Hampshire primary in 2020. So if you take a look here at the polls without Joe Biden, you'll see Kamala Harris leads in almost every single one of them, with two of them being won by Michelle Obama, but those were both before the inauguration. So after the inauguration, Kamala Harris has essentially taken over the field. Andrew Yang, who is running currently, or who just ended his failed New York City mayor campaign. He's not polling too well, essentially the same as 2020, to be honest, around 3 to 4%. AOC, some pretty okay numbers, Beto O'Rourke, same thing as Andrew Yang, essentially. Michelle Obama, that's just wishful thinking for you to, think of her as a potential nominee. Amy Klobuchar, who gained some prominence in 2020, polling essentially the same as Beto and Andrew Yang. Andrew Cuomo doing terrible now. As you can see, he even won a poll back in August before his scandal. Buttigieg doing a little bit better than AOC there. Cory Booker, Stacey Abrams, all right. And then there are still many undecideds, but less definitely compared to the Republicans as of right now. So these are the first polls that have been released for the 2024 presidential election. Today we took a look at the general election polls, as well as the polls for both the Republican and Democratic nominations for 2024. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. Link at the very top of the description below, so make sure to check that out if you have not. I also have channel membership, 99 cents per month. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like it down below if you enjoyed it. Comment down below who you think will win both the Democratic and Republican nominations, as well as the presidential election as a whole in 2024. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.